What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pick Six Podcast. Will Brinson and Katie Mox here, and this is our All 32 series, the series where we catch you up with insiders to give you all the information you need to know on every single NFL team leading up into the season. Today, we are covering the Minnesota Vikings with NFL writer and Vikings insider Cody Benjamin with CBSSports.com. Cody, thanks for joining us today. Koji,
Koji,
Yes.
what's up, Koji?
I'm gonna start
Koji's
going by
actually
that.
a cool name. I
Yeah,
I think we're onto something here.
growing up, it would always be like Kobe or something like that. People would mistake, or Corey. That's a big one. But that
Corey.
Koji is kind of cool.
Koji.
And I would say, yeah, I feel very privileged to be on today because this is Katie Mox and Will Brinson. So I feel like I'm in the presence of, not one but two celebrities.
Yes. Wow.
You're in the presence of something, buddy. We hopefully we won't swear in this podcast. We got a little loose in the language by accident. Jeff Kerr. We're talking about the Eagles with Jeff Kerr. If that hasn't aired, I don't know when they're airing. I'm going to shut up now and ask you instead about the Minnesota Vikings, specifically Alexander Mattison, a popular best ball handcuff or fantasy football handcuff the last few years in the event that Dalvin Cook could get hurt. Now is their feature back? I sort of wonder, do you get the sense of the Vikings that they truly believe he can be a feature back, or is this because he's not Dalvin Cook, he's just not. Dalvin Cook is a better talent, and I just wondered, do you get the sense that they believe he can be a feature back, that this is about Alexander Mattison moving on and going to Alexander Mattison, the decision to get rid of Dalvin Cook, or is this more about just the basic economics and analytics that go into the devaluation of the running back position?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I think depends what you call feature back. I think they're looking probably for more of just a functional back. And I mean, the vibe I feel like around the team has been not overly worried about moving on from Dalvin Cook, but also not overly excited, if that makes sense. So, I mean, there's, like you said, there's a drop off, I think, in just sheer electricity. I think that Alexander Mattison, like many running backs around the NFL, you can plug him in, and if you have a capable offensive line, he's going to, for the most part, do his job. Without Dalvin Cook, I wonder if we don't get more, not just Alexander Mattison a huge role, but more motion, more gadget runs to kind of complement him. So you're talking about guys like KJ Osborne, Jordan Addison, even Jalen Reagor if he makes the team, utilizing sweeps, motions, and also just a heavier passing game. I think that's what it's going to result in. If you look at Kirk Cousins, his first year under Kevin O'Connell, a career high number of pass attempts, I think that trajectory continues.
Yeah, well, I was surprised to see them let Dalvin Cook go like that. Let's talk now about Kirk Cousins entering the final year of his contract. He is getting older. I know he's very beloved in Minnesota, and outside of his primetime woes, has been very successful for the franchise. How do you see this playing out with Cousins?
Yeah, I mean, it might be obvious, but this is certainly the closest I think we've come to Minnesota kind of preparing for a split. So if you think, 2018, he signed a 3-year deal. 2020, he got a 2-year extension. 2022, he got a 1-year extension. So we've seen progressively less commitment from the team, over a course of time. And part of that is his doing. The same way in Washington, he kind of milked the market to stay well compensated. But I think, if the Vikings wanted him locked up, they'd have done that. And so he really does, you said he's beloved in Minnesota. I think I think of him kind of like a Derek Carr with the Raiders fan base. Everyone enjoys him.
He's not disliked.
They
don't hate him.
He's a likable guy.
He's not actively disliked, but he's also not. Yeah, he straddles the line. I mean, he's borderline top 10 production year in, year out, but kind of like Carr, like Dak Prescott. I mean, these other proven big names, there's been no trophy to show for it. And so this isn't necessarily an original take, but I do think for the first time in 5 years, really, everything is on the table for the Vikings at quarterback, especially right after this season. So
really,
yeah, I mean, I think that, it's a contract year. I mean, we don't often see that with a veteran quarterback. And so, their front office has been more transparent than normal about kind of wanting long-term flexibility there. And so, yeah, it's a really odd year for Kirk Cousins because it's a contract year, a prove it opportunity, and yet the roster has kind of been stripped down as opposed to built up. So yeah, it's I certainly think they could look towards the drafts if you want to bring in, like, if you really want to get into the like rumor mill post 2023. You talk about guys like Trey Lance. I mean, if Kyler Murray's available in Arizona, I think everything is on the table depending on how the season shakes out.
So, I mean, just to follow up on that, do you think it's a case of, all right, if like we go win a couple playoff games, we're going to run it back with Kirk? Or is it like, because I mean, I think, you hear it from Vikings fans too. They're really, I think they sort of see themselves as like being in limbo,
yes.
You can say, all right, the Packers, maybe even did Aaron Nagler reference this in the Packers episode? He could have. I'm operating a little slow today. But the point being is the Packers, all right, they moved on to Jordan Love. They made the move, and it might stink. It might be terrible, but they at least know where they are. They've got Jordan Love. They invested a first round pick in him. They traded up to get him. They moved on from Aaron Rodgers. With the Vikings, it's like, you're probably going to be good enough with Kirk Cousins where you're not going to have a good selection in this draft. And you've got a team in the Cardinals with 2 first-round picks. You've got plenty of teams that'll be looking to get Caleb Williams or Drake May. Like they're going to go 1 and 2 unless they just stink the joint up this year in college. And it's like, if Minnesota has the 15th pick, it's going to be really difficult to get up there. So, and you have a GM who doesn't like to do it. I guess I'm just wondering, like, what, I mean, you said it, maybe you already gave the answer. Everything's on the table. It's just like, if you're the Vikings, I mean, like, you're not going to win the Super Bowl with Kirk Cousins, and yet you're not going to get the first pick either. It's a very tough situation.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of epitomizes the Kirk Cousins experience, I think, where you're straddling that line where kind of like, the Vikings and Kirk Cousins, and Will, you and I probably talked about this a year or 3 years ago too. It's just like the Vikings are never, they almost never bottom out. But
right.
They also, that works against them in some ways too. And similar with Kirk Cousins, like he is going to be good enough that you could justify paying him starter money. But you have 2 options when you don't have a dynamic game changer at quarterback, like a Mahomes, an Allen, a Burrow, a Hurts. If you don't have one of those guys, you have 2 options. You pay what the market says, or you totally reset and you risk losing your annual shot at a wild card. You risk your job essentially. And so, I mean, I look at everything else the Vikings have done, aside from the quarterback position. Dalvin Cook, Zadarius Smith, Adam Thielen, Patrick Peterson, Eric Kendricks, all of these guys. I mean, I look at all of that and I don't see a team that says we really, really believe Kirk Cousins could surprise us this year and make a run. I mean, I see a team that is preparing mostly for his exit. And right now they just don't have a better, higher upside alternative. And that maybe that will present itself next offseason.
God, it just reminds me of the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. You brought up Trey Lance, where it's like, you have this serviceable quarterback that wins games, that's likable, but can't push the needle. So it'll be interesting. I don't think that Trey Lance is going to be with the 49ers.
Jimmy Garoppolo is like evil Kirk Cousins.
Oh, he's just a better looking Kirk Cousins.
Well, I mean, it's like he's like the dark hair, like, Kirk Cousins is a clean cut guy, does his steaks well done, a devout religious man, and Jimmy Garoppolo's out here like with porn stars, it's just like
to a nice Beverly Hills dinner, okay? He does it right.
I'm not it's not saying evil bad. I'm just saying like to me they're like, it's like a evil alter ego or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that. Cody, I see you wrote an article just a week ago that Justin Jefferson is downplaying his need for the new contract before training camp. He's saying he's not really worried about it. Should fans be worried about it? When do you think this extension is going to get done?
I mean, I would say if it's not before training camp, then during, I would guess. I mean, I just think, and even if it's directly before the season, I mean, there's been some reporting about the Vikings not rushing to get this done because they have him under team control for at least another 2 years. But I mean, I see multiple reasons why it will get done before the season. Number one, he's going to be there. Like, there hasn't been a more obvious building block for maybe any NFL team, 3 years into a player's career. Number two, his trajectory suggests that like if you wait a year to give him this deal, I mean you're going to be paying even more for him. So like the quicker you can get ahead of it, probably the better from a team side. And then as a bonus, you open up a little bit of money by reworking or extending the deal. So yeah, and I think that again we've seen, you know, personalities, they don't always factor into these things, but and certainly guys can change after they get paid $100-200 million. But you know, just as an aside, you know, personally, Justin Jefferson, like he plays the part of a number one receiver. Like he comes in with the flashy like sunglasses and the jewelry, and like he plays it up. But he really is, like from my experience, you know, I had a chance to talk to him last summer and talking with people like on the team. This guy is just like, he really is just like a little kid who doesn't take himself too seriously. Okay. And it kind of benefits the team too, because, you know, he talked about like, of course I'll be at training camp. Like he really does just have fun. And not that like guys like Stephon Diggs didn't do that while they were there too. But I just think at the end of the day, he will be a Viking. The Vikings love him. He's going to love getting paid what he's going to get from them.
Yeah. I mean, he's your number one 25 under 25 guy too.
Yes.
That's a good article on CBSSports.com. People should check that out. Let's take a quick break. We come back. More Vikings talk, including what the defense might look like under a new coordinator. Skull! Okay, so Brian Flores in town now. Ed Donatel, talk about people beloved in Minnesota. Ed Donatel, not beloved in Minnesota. Run out of town. Understandably, given how well the defense, you know, how poorly the defense played. Brian Flores, you know, I mean, developed a reputation as a really, really good defensive coach. Had, you know, the whole issue with, you know, suing the league and fired by Miami and all of that, and like you know, just a very bizarre turn of events because Miami has to be involved in every scandal. The Dolphins do. Now in Minnesota, like, I mean, that's a home run for the Vikings, right? Is there a sense that this defense can take a dramatic step forward, or is there just too much personnel loss there?
Yeah, I think that's the key. I don't know that you're going to see it necessarily as much in the results, but like this year, but certainly like there's a philosophy change on defense. And I think it's probably the thing that stood out most. Like when I was at OTAs, of course, the offense was in a little bit of a holding pattern. Dalvin Cook wasn't there. Justin Jefferson wasn't there. But on defense, I mean, if you just look at the way he's lining guys up, I mean, a bunch of guys standing up at the line, some of them rushing, some of them dropping. It just looks a lot different. It's creative up front. And so, like, if you were to look at the way to play defense, if you were to use like extreme generalizations, there's like two ways to play: attack or react. And the Ed Donatel defense was very much like, it was a total react. Like, we will sit back and let you do what you want to do and react. And if you have the personnel for that, and your personnel is great, like, it can work. Like, if your pass rushers are winning without sending extra rushers, whatever, it can work. I mean, Brian Flores, it seems like it's quite a polar shift here to attack, or at least present like we're going to attack. And so, you know, you saw Marcus Davenport, who came over from the Saints. He's lining up like at inside linebacker, about to rush. He's lined up with his hand in the dirt. You've got Harrison Smith coming down, Jordan Hicks. Again, it's a total opposite of the sit back and react approach, which kind of got them beaten by the Giants in the playoffs last year. So again, I'm not so sure the personnel is there to give you the results you want, but you can at least expect more creativity.
All right, well, let's bet on it, Cody. Vikings win total 8.5. Now, they had the most single score wins last year, I believe, in NFL history at 11 or 12. This 8.5.
11-0 in the regular season, 0-1 in the postseason. Because that's called regression, kids. Regression to the mean. It bites you in the ass.
Yeah. So what do you think? You're 8.5.
Oh, I mean, I'm going. So it's there's a reason they're good at putting these out, because it's always right where it should be. I'm going over, but barely. Like I would project like a 9-8 season. I think that, you know, like you referenced earlier, Will, there seems to be this kind of limbo state. And even when I was out there for OTAs, like just talking to like some people that work for the team, like anyone involved with the team, there's definitely a sense of, we're not sure where this is going. Like, really, the 13-4. I mean, like, nobody expected 13 wins, I think, with Kevin O'Connell as a first-year coach. certainly like all last season, it was beaten to death. This like one score, the way that they got those 13
Probably on
wins.
this podcast.
Yeah.
Dude, we kept calling them a luck box, and they would
yeah,
they just know how to win. They know how to win. It's like, no, you don't know how to win in the NFL. You win in one-score games, you're getting lucky as hell.
And I would agree with you, but no matter what, if you're rooting for a team that's got 13 wins, if you're playing for a team that's got 13 wins, like regardless of whether it's real or not, they're gonna believe it's real because
you're never gonna be like, yeah, we're getting lucky, dude, week in and week out. It's amazing.
It gets infectious. Like you go into anyway, like 13 wins, they didn't expect it. Everyone talks highly of the general manager, what Kwesi Adofo-Mensah has done, and the way he's not tying himself to these names because of sentimentality, like Dalvin Cook, Adam Thielen, like all of them individually make sense from a cap perspective, from a team building perspective. The problem is they haven't necessarily gotten better. Like they've gotten worse because of those steps. It's just a question of, well, where are we going? Like it feels like we've been waiting for another shoe to drop with the Vikings all offseason. Mainly because of the quarterback situation, like they haven't fully hit the reset button. So all that said, I'm not ready to like crown the Lions just yet.
Yeah.
I like the Bears, but how much better are they going to be? And then the Packers, I know, they could be bad transitioning at quarterback. I'm not ready to like write them off either. I think they could be competitive. And so, I look at it like, as always with Kirk Cousins, you're probably hovering around the wild card spot. I say 9-8, and I see it as a 3-team race. No team head and shoulders above each other in the North.
Yeah, I was going to ask that about the North, and if we bring up the division, the odds to win the division, that would work too. Just because, like, it's wild to me. Thank you, Billy. It's wild to me to see these numbers, and like having said that, like I'm not telling anybody to bet the Vikings, but it's like they just went 13-4. And they brought back, Dalvin's gone, Adam Thielen's gone, but like they draft Jordan Addison. They have Justin Jefferson. They have Kirk Cousins. They have a good coaching staff, we think. They improved their defensive coordinator position. The defense wasn't very good last year at all. But Aaron Rodgers is gone.
Yeah.
And they're plus 330 to win the division. It is the biggest like red flag on planet Earth that Vegas is making them more than 3-1 to win a division that features the Packers with a total question mark at quarterback and way worse odds. The Bears, who just had the number 1 overall pick, which means they're probably not very good. They're not. And the Detroit Lions, who, and to quote my buddy Adam Shine, have been rebuilding since 1935. Like the Vikings number here is wild to me, Cody. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think like basically I'm going to tell you probably what I've said on any Vikings preview show for the last 5 years. It's that I don't think they're Super Bowl contenders, but I think they're going to be in the wild card mix. I mean, I don't think much has changed really. Like the pieces
40-1 to win the Super Bowl, by the way. That's for a team that went 13-4 last year. That is a bit in a weak NFC. That is a big number.
Well, to make the playoffs, you're getting plus money, plus 120. It seems crazy. Like from what we're hearing from you, Cody, that's a good bet to make.
Yeah, like again, I mean, I feel like if you re-listen to like all of what we've talked about during this, like I don't think any of us are like in love with the Vikings and their trajectory for as a 2023 contender. And yet you look around the division, like Detroit has the pieces to be competitive. I'm not ready to say they are like class of, the NFC. And then again, I think Packers will be competitive. Bears maybe a couple wins better. So it's like, they're very clearly to me like in the mix there.
It's just the play. I understand the plus money of the playoffs like that. I think that is not a bad bet at all. You're talking about a weak NFC where good luck finding a lot of teams that are going to be good in this conference. But like, I just can't get over this plus 330.
I know.
Like that is wild as hell. This division is not that good. And yet again, as you're saying, Cody, like I don't really want to bet it. Cause like do you think there's a chance the Vikings just flop?
Well, that's the ones that like Kirk Cousins, the one thing you can't argue against is that he's been durable. Now, if there's a big injury, for example, like we talked about the Jimmy Garoppolo evil thing, like the one thing like Kirk Cousins has been able to do is stay on the field. He's the polar
opposite, man. I'm telling you, Jimmy Garoppolo eats his steak raw.
But well, like the the one way, I guess, like I thought about this, what is the one way where the Vikings could then say, we're going to lean all the way in to the rebuild and we're going to like really push our chips into 2024 during this season? It would probably be where like maybe you start out
Justin
at the
Jefferson
gate.
Gets hurt. I mean,
Yes. I mean, when Justin Jefferson gets removed, like it's rare when he gets taken out of the game, but when he does, that it gets ugly pretty quickly for the Vikings offense. So yeah, if he gets hurt, if Kirk Cousins gets hurt, or maybe you start for some, bad reason, you start 1-5, 1-6. And then you might start saying, hey, do they consider like seeing what we've got with the young guys, but really it's just a play for the next draft. So yeah, that would really, I think, shift the pendulum there.
Yeah,
I'm curious what you think of Justin Jefferson's bets here. He is the favorite actually to have the most regular season receiving yards at plus 600. Jamar Chase, of course, right underneath him at plus 700. He was Offensive Player of the Year last year, over 1,800 receiving yards. This year, his line has dropped down. It's dropped down to 1,375 and a half. I'm pretty high on this Jordan Addison kid at a USC. Curious if you think maybe that is a reason why Justin Jefferson's line has decreased from his production for last year. Do you have high hopes for this kid?
Yeah. I mean, I think Jordan Addison, like it's not time to panic, but I don't think it's nothing that he hasn't practiced since rookie minicamp. Yeah. I mean, he sat out OTAs minicamp and they expect him to be ready for training camp. Again, I don't think it's not time to hit the panic button yet, but it's something. I mean, if I'm betting on Justin like I know for any other receiver, like to just casually be like, 1,300, 1,400 yards. Well, that's nothing. Like, but it is with him. Like he makes it so, he just looks so smooth. I mean, I was thinking a safe bet for Justin Jefferson is 1,400 yards. I think reasonable is 1,500. Even if you want to push it to 1,600, I mean, the guy is like, you factor in the Addison question mark, like is he going to be there or not? I still think TJ Hawkinson is a little underrated as kind of a safety valve for Kirk Cousins. So I think the volume will still be there for Justin Jefferson. And then Jordan Addison, KJ Osborne, he's kind of hovered around 500, 600 yards the last 2 years. So he's not a non-factor either. So
dig it. All right. Great stuff, Cody.
Yeah, Cody, thank you so much for joining us today and talking all things Vikings and sharing some insight there. We really appreciate it. I'm definitely taking the over now on Justin Jefferson. That was kind of towards the under, but you have convinced me.
Don't fade Justin Jefferson.
I feel like we didn't even like argue that much during that. Like we didn't have any controversial talking points or anything.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I think that your stance, your take on the Vikings and having like been and seen them up close, like I'm just like wary of the Vikings mainly because of that division number. And you're sort of, I mean, like I mean, you weren't really giving us the hard sell on Minnesota here, like either. Like you're like, this team's not winning the Super Bowl, and they could be involved in the playoffs, but
I don't mean to just like ride the middle, but that's precisely what this organization.
I think it's a great theme for the. I mean, we've mentioned it several times. Like it's. I mean, they don't know where they are.
Yeah.
Like me, the day after my birthday.
All right, Cody, thank you so much for joining us. Stay tuned for more from our All 32 series with daily drops in your podcast feed and on YouTube. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe on this show. Again, thank you, Cody, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, Cody.